but we are missing, of course, Mark from Newark. We're missing John from New Haven, and then our board members, Larry, Ray, and Jeff Wang. Looks like we have Mark in here, Lorraine, and John. Great. All right. And then Jan. Great. Welcome all. We were just beginning to start the meeting. Good to see everybody. Director Sarah Kapler will be monitoring our chat. So thank you, Sarah, for taking that on. All right. So now it looks like we have all three of our superintendents, and we are missing our board members, but let's hope that they do join us as we continue. Maybe if we could begin with our introductions. Again, Karen Russell, SELPA Director, and I will remind everyone that we are recording today's Regional Policy Board meeting. It is December 15th, 9:02, and we're officially beginning the Regional Policy Board meeting for the Mission Valley SELPA. Bobby, would you like to start with introducing yourself, please?
Sure, I'm Bobby Platt, and I am the Special Education Department Secretary, as well as the SELPA Secretary.
Sarah?
My name is Sarah Kapler. I'm the Director for Special Services in New Haven Unified School District.
Jackie?
My name is Jackie Neft. I'm a kindergarten inclusion teacher at Cabrillo in Fremont.
Allison?
Good morning. My name is Allison Warner, and I'm the Mission Valley SELPA Infant Toddler Services Coordinator.
CJ?
CJ Kamick, Superintendent, Fremont Unified. I work for Jackie.
Mark?
Good morning, Mark Triplett. I'm the Superintendent in Newark Unified.
Lorraine?
Good morning. My name is Lorraine Neera. I'm the Program Coordinator for the Transition Partnership Program serving Mission Valley SELPA.
Fran?
Fran English, Director of Special Education for Fremont.
Jan?
Jan Hamilton, Director of Special Education for Newark Unified School District.
John? I think you're still on mute, John.
Oops. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. John Thompson, Superintendent from New Haven Unified School District, and our board member, Jeff, will not be here today.
Okay. Robbie?
I'm Robbie Pascual, Director of Accounting Department of Accounting for Fremont Unified School District and the fiscal person for the Mission Valley SELPA.
Great. And we have Luis Zamora from Fremont Unified School District helping us on the technical side. Again, I'd like to welcome everyone here. A couple of things. I want to welcome Jackie. I really appreciate having a teacher here at our Regional Policy Board meetings for input and also for everything, obviously, that you're doing. I'm very excited today to have Allison and Lorraine speak about the programs that we share as a SELPA. And I just want to start by saying just a huge word of gratitude to everybody on our Zoom meeting today, to our superintendents who are just carrying such a heavy load as superintendents during this time of COVID. I see, CJ, your announcements literally every other day with a new staff member and then notifying the district about that. You know, Mark, I love the way that you guys led the profile of a graduate for Newark. I mean, that was really exciting stuff. And to our special ed directors, I just have to say to our superintendents, you guys have three of the hardest working women around. These guys have been literally like college students working around the clock, getting these plans together to be submitted to the state. So big kudos to our three special ed directors. All right, so our first a couple items are public feedback will be provided via the Google Doc. Again, on our agenda, we do have the Mission Valley SELPA, a resource as to who's in the SELPA, again, what are the numbers, et cetera. And one thing before we begin, I'd like to also acknowledge a retiree this month of Amy Fang. Many of you know Amy as a data analyst within the Fremont Unified School District Special Ed Department. But Amy, for 18 years, has also been the kind of data queen for our special ed SELPA. She ushered us in really to a digital era when we started with SACE in 2009. So she's really been at the forefront of data analytics and our conduit with CDE in terms of sharing the data that we have. She will be greatly missed, and yet we're really excited for her replacement, Holly Midyet, who has been training and is going to take on this new challenge. So just on behalf of the Regional Policy Board, I want to send a special thanks out to Amy as well. Second on our agenda are the minutes of September 29th. You probably have had a chance to review these minutes. So are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Okay, if not, I have a poll coming up there that says, do we approve the September 29th Regional Policy Board minutes? At this point, we need only the superintendents to vote. And since we don't have a quorum, I'm going to actually end that one. And we will try that later when we get a quorum. Let's move on to the second item, and that's our Mission Valley Administrative Unit operating budget. Robbie, do you mind a quick overview of that? And I will try to screen share it. Robbie, you're muted right now.
So in front of you is the updated administrative unit projected operating budget. We just updated it with what the board approved on the last regionalized policy board meeting, and also what was encumbered. Nothing much has changed except for the bottom part. We still have the other operating salaries, the director, the clerical support, and the accounting director stipend and benefits. All of the other operating expenses remains the same. We just updated actuals and encumbrances as of December 9. One thing that actually made a change is actually down in the bottom where there's the carryover from prior year. This was allocated to the SELPA members based on the RPB approval on last September 29, which the carryover amounting to 70,000 plus is allocated by the ADA prior year, using prior year ADA to calculate the allocation per site, and that was already also sent to the site to the different districts. I just could not remember when it was sent to them, but that is all done. Of course, we have the admin fee of 8% to the SELPA AU, and also reserve of 1% based on the budget.
Couple of things that have come up. Thank you, Robbie. And we'll be discussing, I'll discuss it now. SACE, the operating system that all three of the districts use for the management of the data part of the IEPs, has offered districts what they refer to as e-signature, which allows for an electronic signature on the IEPs. This has been provided without charge from last summer until now. They did notify districts and SELPAs that as of January, there will be a 50-cent charge per student added then to the fees that we pay with SACE. Districts can opt out of the e-signature feature, but in speaking with the three directors, all three directors would very much like to continue using that e-signature option. We have about 5,600 active IEPs in the SELPA presently. So that's going to be prorated from January to June for about 1,400. So we're looking for an additional expense of 1,400. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be speaking so quickly, but the other item on here is that we had budgeted $10,000 for Special Olympics. And since we are not collaborating with Special Olympics this year, we will not be spending that. So much like Robbie has talked about kind of the pushback to districts when we haven't spent the budget, that will be put back to districts. Any other questions or issues on the budget? Okay, we will not vote on the budget right now because so let's move on to our fourth item. And that is that the Mission Valley, oh, I'm sorry, Robbie.
Karen, on the SACE e-signatures, you said it's 50 cents per per enrollment, special ed enrollment.
And that's a one-time use fee for the year. So you could have 7 IEPs, but it still would just be 50 cents for that student.
And we're going to be taking that money out from the Special Olympics budget? Or do you want it to be taken out from the unallocated operating budget?
I would propose that we take it out of the unallocated budget at this point. There are going to be definitely parts of this budget that we do not spend this year. I mean, the SELPA travel budget, we're not utilizing that at all this year. So we are going to have some excess. And then I think at this point, it would be good to take that out of unallocated and then calculate the excess at the end of the year for refund back to the districts.
Thank you.
Right. Number 4 is our alternative dispute resolution grant. The SELPA has been getting a grant of about $15,000 for the last 3 years to work on alternative dispute resolution. The SELPA has done various things with that grant money, primarily train staff to engage in IEPs that are conducive to good outcomes for families as well as the district. Right now, the state is anticipating a number of COVID-related learning loss claims. And so they have given districts, or SELPAs, excuse me, this grant money to do a number of things. And that's number 1, respond to those COVID claims. We were awarded a grant of close to $80,000 for the Mission Valley SELPA. With that money, they ask us to keep some data, the number of cases mediated through ADR, total number of cases resolved, number of cases that refuse ADR, the alternative dispute resolution, and then any recommendations for the work group as they continue to develop statewide distance learning template. I have briefly discussed this with our SELPA directors, and the other SELPA directors in the county have put together a protocol to support staff on responding to learning loss claims. So we're already starting the work on this, and I'll hopefully have something more more in detail to kind of roll out in our next regional policy board meeting. Any questions on this one?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I see that they've allocated some money and they're anticipating claims. That often means CDE complaints or due process filings. But there is a 2-year statute of limitations. Do you know how long that we will be able to use that money?
My understanding is it's 18 months.
So it won't last the entire 2 years.
No. And I anticipate we can talk about it a little bit later when we get down to the finances. California is actually going beyond all budget projections. And so they do anticipate schools getting a little bit more in the coming years, and that the federal government is also looking to provide schools additional monies related to coming back to school and responding to COVID. So, you know, that's going to be something that we're going to need to continue to talk about and how we resolve those learning loss claims. Certainly right now, all 3 districts should be engaged in meeting with parents whenever they have concerns that their students are not benefiting from the distance learning program. So that doesn't stop IEP teams from adjusting IEPs, meeting with families, and still seeking the best possible outcomes for students. One of the things that we wanted to do today for everyone, particularly our board members and superintendents, is have a quick overview of the two programs that as a SELPA, all three districts serve. And the two programs that are served by all three districts are our infant program, serving our 0 to 3 population that are deafblind and orthopedically impaired. And then our transition partnership program that is serving the other end of the spectrum and our older students who are transitioning into their career, college, post-secondary outcomes. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Allison Warner, and then we'll hear from Lorraine Niera. So Allison, I'll start by opening your infant program overview.
Okay. Oh,
So
I
we let
actually have
somebody- Oh, sorry, Allison.
ahead.
Can
That's
we
okay.
let Board Member Martinez into the room? She's in the waiting room, please.
Oh, thank you. Got it. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. And thanks, Karen. And then I have a PowerPoint presentation to share. Would I be able to screen share with everybody?
Yeah, let me kind of get that new share in there. Okay. I'm going to stop my share here. And hang on, I'll find you, Allison.
Thanks.
Okay. So you are a co-host and should be able to share now.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. So the infant toddler program with the Mission Valley SELPA, we are serving, as Karen mentioned, infants and toddlers from birth to 3. And I am currently the service coordinator of that program. And by profession, I'm a speech language pathologist. So today I just wanted to give you a general overview of what the Mission Valley SELPA Early Start program looks like. We'll cover what is Early Start, who do we serve, what do we do, what are the program needs, and why Early Start is essential. So what is Early Start? So Early Start is California's system of intervention services for infants and toddlers with disabilities and their families. It is a collaborative effort between the Department of Developmental Services and the California Department of Education. And Early Start encourages partnerships between families and professionals, family support, and coordination of services. Early Start is mandated by federal law through the Individuals with Disabilities Act, and also through state law through the California Early Intervention Services Act. So who is eligible and how is eligibility determined? So again, infants and toddlers from birth to 36 months, they could be eligible for early intervention services if through documented evaluation, they either show a significant developmental delay in either cognitive, communication, social, emotional, adaptive, physical, or motor development, or if the child is at risk for delays through either having a documented vision, hearing, or orthopedic impairment, or a combination of one of those. So to note, there's kind of two main categories. There's those infants and toddlers who are currently showing developmental delays in this first category here. Those infants and toddlers are generally not served by the SELPA. Those infants and toddlers fall under the Department of Developmental Services category, and in our area are generally served by the regional center. And then the second category are infants and toddlers with solely low incidence disabilities. This is who the Mission Valley SELPA is serving. So again, infants and toddlers who are deaf or hard of hearing, we use the acronym DHH. Infants and toddlers who are visually impaired, we use this acronym VI, and then orthopedically impaired OI. So you'll notice on this little graph here that we have that we currently aren't serving any infants and toddlers who are orthopedically impaired. We have a small population of infants and toddlers who are visually impaired. And then the bulk of the students that we're serving are students who present with deafness or are hard of hearing. And then a little note about the numbers. In Early Start, our numbers fluctuate throughout any given school year because as we receive new referrals, as infants and toddlers are born, our program will grow. And as infants and toddlers turn 3 and transition out of Early Start, the numbers again will fluctuate. So this is just a snapshot from each school year from our December count. Another thing to note about the numbers, you'll notice that in 2017-18, we were serving close to 40 infants and toddlers, and now in 2020-21, we're down to 16. So a substantial difference in the numbers. So we are funded for roughly 14.16 infants. So although all numbers have really dropped substantially, we're now back to serving the number of students we were funded for, and we're no longer serving beyond our capacity.
And just to kind of highlight what Allison said, in 1994, the SELPA received a set amount of money for the infant program. That amount of money has not changed since 94.
Right, it's incredible. So in a way, we're happy to be back to our lower numbers. Yeah. Okay, so what is the goal of our Early Start program? Our main goals start with identification, and that looks like assessment of the family's needs and the child's needs, and then development and implementation of an individualized family service plan. So many educational professionals hear the term IEP and are familiar with an individualized education plan, but not everyone has heard of the terminology IFSP. So an IFSP is for infants and toddlers from birth to 36 months. And really the hallmark and the focus of the IFSP is the family. So we're supporting families through coaching, help giving practices. So rather than just providing a direct service and therapy to the child, the focus is on the family, because research shows that supporting families with the necessary tools and resources is the key to long-term success for the child and for the family. So what services do we provide within the Mission Valley SELPA, and where do we provide those services? So going back to, again, many professionals are familiar with IEPs and the terminology LRE, which is the least restrictive environment. In Early Start, that least restrictive environment for infants and toddlers is their natural environment. So any setting that would be typical for an infant or toddler's same age peers without a disability, the home, community setting, these are natural environments, and we make every effort to provide our services within those settings. So our services include evaluation and assessment, home-based supports such as coaching and help giving practices, other services, for example, like speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, just depending on student needs. We have collaborative relationships with the California School for the Deaf here in Fremont, and we have a memorandum of understanding for them to provide our DHH services for our students, including a center-based toddler program, which utilizes a bilingual approach, which includes American Sign Language and English. They also provide parent education and training through workshops, through home visits, through American Sign Language classes. And we also have collaborative relationships with some of the non-public schools in our area to contract on a per student basis to provide specialized instruction for our students with more intensive needs. So these supports, both through the SELPA and through our collaborative relationships, are crucial, not only because the impact that Early Start supports have, but really given the nature of the disabilities that we're serving, often the challenges that the students are facing are really due to access. Meaning due to their sensory impairment, they're missing out on access to the world around them. So when the child's given access, whether it's through American Sign Language or cochlear implants and hearing aids, or through visual supports, or through specialized equipment, those barriers go away for that child. And the earlier we can give these children access and remove the barriers, the better. So when we're supporting families to ensure that their child has access and really empowering families to advocate for their children and to allow them to have access, we're building independence for the child and the family, and we're decreasing the long-term need for more intensive interventions later on. So what are some needs of our Early Start program here within the SELPA? So one, we're always looking at how do we best meet the profile of the changing population of the students and the families that we're serving. We're also looking at how do we balance with the fluctuations of number and students that we're serving in our program from year to year. And last, we're looking at how do we secure appropriate staffing to serve our unique population. Our population is unique in that we're serving birth to 3, which finding professionals with that kind of experience isn't always easy. And not only are we working with infants and toddlers, but we're also supporting the families and going into their home. And then on top of that, we're serving a low incidence disability, deaf, blindness, orthopedic impairment. So it's a challenge to find professionals who have experience in all 3 of those areas. So finally, early start is effective and it is essential. So I have a couple of quotes here just to show the effectiveness and cost savings that early start does provide. So research has shown that early intervention with young children from birth to age 5 with disabilities benefits both children and their families. It ensures a long-term cost savings to both the local education agencies and society. And just speaking from experience, just yesterday I attended an IEP for one of our toddlers who has gone through our early start program. We started serving this toddler when she was 3 months old. She has a hearing loss. We were able to provide coaching with our deaf and hard of hearing specialist, with our speech language pathologist, resources. We attended their audiological visits with them throughout the last 3 years. And during the child's assessment to determine eligibility for an IEP over the last month, the Glankler assessment team with Fremont found that this child was performing above average in all areas of development. And given the early intervention and supports that this child received, she will not qualify for specialized services moving forward, which is really a positive thing. But she will be able to, when it's safe, attend her community-based preschool setting and will thrive there without additional supports at this time. So on top of being an effective program and the long-term cost saving, early intervention really does allow for the development of relationships between families and their educational teams. So for some families, early start is just the beginning of their child's educational journey. And because early start is built around relationships and families and we're going into the home, it plants the seed for a positive relationship and supports for our families just beginning in their educational journey with Fremont Unified, with Newark Unified, with New Haven. And it really is a good start to their educational journey. So that's it for my presentation today. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, I'm not sure if you dropped any questions in the chat, but you could ask them now if you have any.
I did not see any questions in the chat.
Okay.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, Allison. Great job with that. It's just so interesting because, you know, we're so used to understanding the school district serving kindergarten through 12th, but here we have such a robust program for that 0 to 3 population. So thank you, Allison, for everything that you and the team that you work with does for our kids. Welcome, Desiree. Good to see you here.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared, so I'm putting on my video. I haven't had a chance to comb my hair yet, so.
We appreciate your mind being here, definitely.
Okay, thank you so much.
Next on our agenda, kind of looking at that other end of that spectrum, is Lorraine to speak to us about the Transition Partnership Program and looking at our kids 18 to 22. So Lorraine, would you like me to make you a co-host now?
I would love that. Thank you so much. And while Karen is making me a co-host, I'm actually going to ask you all to participate by doing me the honor of, in the chat box, can you tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling today? Well, we know our most recent guest may put a lower number, but 1 being, you know, I'm kind of feeling crummy, but 10, this is the best day ever. I just finished 2 cups of coffee. So if you'll put that in the chat box, you can see everyone's feeling. Oh, Karen's a 9. I'm going to put a 7 because I'm a little nervous. So there we go. And let me see. Okay, you go ahead and write that. Oh, thank you everyone for responding so quickly. If my students were this responsive, it would be a really easy job right now. So let me share my screen. Wow. Is that right, Fran? Every day is good. All right.
Every day, be grateful.
I am grateful too. Yes, I'm grateful for this opportunity actually.
I'm a little mad that Mark beat me, or not Mark, but that CJ beat me by 0.5. I'm going to have to up my day.
It is really a good way to gauge your classroom or your audience, seeing how they're responding. Allison, you should rate a 10 because that was a terrific presentation and it's very nerve-wracking to do this. Okay, and that's nice. We have really high numbers for, let's see. All righty. All right, thank you everyone for doing that. Sometimes we'll start our classroom visits with checking in just like that. So I wanted you to get a feel for what we're doing. And then there we go. Okay, so I'm going to do let me do a few aesthetics like moving my bar and such. Okay. Okay, there we go. So I actually can talk for days about my program, our program, I should say, but I'm going to try to keep it brief because we have a long agenda, I noticed. I am Lorraine Nira, and thank you for this opportunity to share the Transition Partnership Program with all of you. So I'm not sure, I know a few people in the group here definitely know all about us, but I see the superintendents are relatively new, so I'm going to give you the whole kit and caboodle. Our Assistant Director of Special Education is Carly Kim, and she is actually oversees the TPP program. And as I had stated, I'm the program coordinator, and I have a team of 5 employment transition specialists who are really all quite talented. And we are partnered with and fully funded by the California Department of Rehabilitation. And as Mr. Pascal knows, we do monthly invoicing to the DOR to get refunded for our salaries and costs. But we are cost neutral, which is always a good thing to hear. Okay, so while we're housed in Fremont Unified School District, we actually serve the 3 school districts, which include 10 Mission Valley SELPA high schools and 2 young adult programs. We have Fremont, we serve Fremont, New Haven, and Newark Unified School Districts. So we bring our career and college education directly to the students in the form of classroom workshops, small group, or one-on-one instruction. And we connect transitioning students, so it's the 11th or 12th graders, certainly the seniors, to post-secondary resources, support after high school, because they had an IEP in high school. There are resources out there, and many people aren't aware of them. And certainly the students benefit from hearing about it. 2 of them are the DOR, our funder, is one resource. And then at the college level, there's actually a disabled students program services. So mandated at every college, there's a resource center. And we like to let the students know that once you're leaving the safety of your high school and your case manager and all that attention, there are resources after you graduate or exit. And I should say, there's also Regional Center of East Bay for our other population of developmentally disabled students who may receive a certificate instead and age out. But as you may know, districts have a responsibility to meet certain post-secondary outcome targets, and it's now being tracked, and data has to be gathered, as we're hearing. But success is measured in those trackings on whether the student, after they leave us, attend college or are becoming employed. So this makes our Transition Partnership Program even more significant at this time, as we have the ability to increase the odds for the students we serve. And we improve their chances of becoming employable adults, which is what we're all hoping for. Okay, next slide. Okay, so who we serve and how they're eligible to become enrolled in our program. So we serve high schoolers with disabilities. They're participating in special education, and they're ranging in age from 16 till 21. So until they age out, basically. And we serve, well, actually, I think something people don't realize about our program is that we support teachers in what they're trying to accomplish for their students' transition goals. So we build relationships with our teachers and case managers and even the administration. As some of you here know, I've been in a Zoom meeting with you, letting you know who we are. And we provide these DOR student services is what it's labeled, but it's pre-employment transition services in activities in these 5 categories: self-advocacy, job exploration, workplace readiness, post-secondary and college education, and the best of all is the work-based learning experience. So if you've heard of our program, you may know that a number of our students, and maybe I want to say it's maybe less than 10% of our total served, but a number of our students who participate and enroll in our program get the opportunity of actually working at a work site, whether it's Roundtable, Mission Valley Vet, Hope Center. It's paid or unpaid, but we facilitate these work experiences so that it may be their first opportunity to be reporting into a job and learning the soft skills around that. And it's the best part of our program. It's very unique, and it's the best part of our program. So just before I go more on, I'll talk a little bit more about that because you probably are asking what's happening right now, with COVID. So I'll get to that later. But it is our goal to maximize student success in transitioning from high school to higher education or employment and becoming more independent. We want our students to think about post-secondary. What am I doing after high school? We might just, like we did this check-in this morning, we might ask the kids, do you know what you're going to do? And you'll be surprised how many seniors write in the chat box, I don't know, I have no idea. So we get them thinking about it, and we also help them with self-advocacy to learn about their disability and workarounds and how to speak up for accommodations at either if they go to college, how to advocate for themselves, or if they're in a job, how to speak up and say, I need these accommodations. All right, so let's see. So, our program is plagued with having to do data reporting. And here, let me just close my chat box. Okay, we have to, our team and I have to track every single time we work with a student. We are constantly submitting reports to keep the funding coming. And the money comes down, I guess, through from the federal WIOA money to the state agency of DOR to us, to our students, on behalf of our students. So we have goal numbers that we are given. I didn't want you to sit through what we have to sit through every quarterly meeting, going over every single service. But the long story short of it is, we were asked to serve 250 students in our contract for the last few years. We have a three-year contract, which is coming up again in July. So they asked for 250. We serve 303. The team is dynamic. So 21% surplus. We would serve more if we could. And as we grow, we will. The other thing is with the DOR student services, that's that pre-employment training, we are asked to, or hope to, give each student who's enrolled with us at least 3 of the services, 3 of those 5. And we tailor it to what their needs are, which is I think the best thing that we can do. And we'll work with the teachers because sometimes they know the students better. And if one student may need self-advocacy, another one is trying to, get into college and doesn't know, how do I even find financial aid? We're there. We are like the radio advertisement to every college and career, I guess the college and career department at every high school. We'll, repeat a couple more times to our student population so they really get it. And the second column here shows that those minimum services, we surpassed what we we're hoping to do. And again, this is just the one time that we gave them each service. Some students receive 2 or 3, but we don't even track that. So they're getting really good service if they're part of our program. And then the last one is work experience. They were hoping that we could serve and place 35 students, and we did meet that goal. Let me just see. I think what I wanted to tell you about is where we are right now. So again, March hit, mid-March, and for a minute there, we couldn't even get back into the classrooms. The students weren't attending, and then things started to come together, and we have these good relationships with our teachers and the students. So we were able to, get back into the classroom. And this fall, we start with our enrollment. Just one quick second. I was waiting for, oh, there it is. Yay. Okay. I was going to have technical problems. Okay. So as of December 2020, as of this month, we have 180 enrolled students. And again, they're 11th and 12th graders. So we are in the process of getting them enrolled. It's a 3-page application. It's been kind of tricky, getting these parent signatures, but the team has been working really hard with many strategies. But the idea is that at this point, our team of 5 have been in over 30 classrooms throughout those 12 schools we're serving, and have given these presentations to draw in and enroll students. Even if students don't enroll, we do supply them as seniors with a nice, robust packet. We made it even more robust for this June 2020 because we felt really, our hearts went out to those students, who are seniors and had to end their year like that. So Lisa Hillman is in the waiting room. Okay. But then just like Allison mentioned about program needs, we identified that when we were about to renew our contract in July of 2021, we were getting the same funding and salaries are increasing and we want to serve more students. We recognize the need, and this is really hot off the press. We just received word that we had to do a proposal to the Department of Rehabilitation, but we have increased our program. We received an augmentation of 100,000. So now our budget is at over $500,000. And what we're hoping to do with that is, of course, serve more students. And we're also able to support the full staff that we have and increments that they may receive, increases that they may receive. And then the last thing is we're starting to think about, we only serve while school's in session. We're talking about maybe in the next year or two, perhaps we can roll out a summer program. So the money will be well spent. Okay, so that was enough about numbers for now. I just want to say that our real strength is that we have partnerships with employers in the community and the amazing teachers who are working so hard right now, and case managers, and actually the admin as well. We have good relationships that we're building, and community agencies as well, because they can support our students with resources. But we've always gauged success, like maybe Karen has spoke about, like last year or the year before, we list out where, when we hear a student is going to college, we jot down which college, or if we hear that we're shopping at Lucky's and we see that student that was with us still working at Lucky's, and or I picked up the phone the other day because our pet wasn't well. I called our local vet clinic, and the gal who participated in our work experience, she received this paid work. We paid for her salary through the DOR funds, and then she graduated. She actually was asked back by the vet clinic, and she's still working there today. And she said she's never been busier. So she was just a shy girl in high school, and it's just so rewarding to see them out there in the community working. And know that because she participated with TPP, we like to feel like, we helped her get there. So I had these 2 slides of that. But I actually, I want to say that what I want to say is I think there's a bigger success story here than what's happening with the students. My team, as soon as COVID hit, they didn't panic and just call it quits. They must have taken, I don't know how many trainings on Google Classroom, Google Meet, Zoom. We are Zoom wizards now, right? I like to think I'm way better than I was last year this time. Anyway, so one of my team created this interactive virtual classroom, and it makes learning about FAFSA a whole bunch, more fun. And the kids are learning in this environment the best we can do. Sometimes it's hard to even get the student to, put their camera on, but we're very empathetic to it, and we talk about strategies every day about how to get them to participate. But anyway, so there was Google Classroom, and then our last success story of the perseverance of my team was, you remember I mentioned they were students out in the field working. Well, that all came to a halt. It was just unsafe. So what we've done is we brought employer panels or training programs to them. As soon as most recently as May, right as soon as COVID hit, we asked and created a virtual employer panel. So we had our seniors, we asked the teachers to invite their students in. Now I'm realizing we can probably have maybe more than one class, maybe more than one school. We could have several classes in a Zoom room and hear these presentations. We had Cypress Mandela pre-apprenticeship program. We spoke to the executive director. He's pictured here. He was such a sweetheart. He said, of course, I'll come talk to the high schoolers. They're looking for, to populate their program. It's a 16-week free program to get into the trades. So this gentleman came he was called in from Oakland, where the warehouse is. We have a Union City training location as well. And he walked around with his cell phone and gave us a walking virtual tour of how the students that participate in his program were building houses, learning solar, learning about electrical. So it was better than we could have ever hoped. We weren't able to take a field trip, And then we had another gentleman last year he was in the classroom, and he works at Tesla. So he says to me, Lorraine, it looks like I got a call to go do solar panels today, right when we're doing the presentation. I said, can you just give us 5 minutes from your truck? So he calls in, he's sitting in his Tesla van. And you know what? It was even better that way than him sitting at home with a virtual background like mine. So anyway, long story short, I'm going to see, oh, am I going over? Okay. So we turned this into something really positive. We're going to do many, many more things like this. And it's just new and engaging ways to deliver our transition partnership program curriculum. I'm just taking a look at my last card here. If I had, you know what? I think that's pretty much, I just want to say that I'm really proud of my team. And this is just one more last screenshot. I'm known for taking the screenshots at all the Zooms. I have record of everything we've done. Anyway, so you could see that the students are listening. They're paying attention. I did mark out their names so you can't see them, but their names. But you could see that they were asked questions, viable questions by the end of the training. So the workshop. So I'm going to say it's going okay. Even though it's slow on getting the applications back. We are going to participate in Karen's wonderful CAC meeting in March to try to get, more parents to know about our program, because maybe we'll get the signatures back faster next year. But in any case, that's pretty much Transition Partnership Program. Thank you for listening. I could talk for hours, you could see. Any questions at all? I'm more than glad to, you can write me separately, or because I think I went over, huh, Karen?
You're doing good.
All right.
Thank you, Lorraine. And I appreciate everyone's attention on this, because certainly programs of training for employment or post-college avenues for our kids with disabilities is so critical. Our students with disabilities as adults are some of the highest group of individuals who are unemployed. So this kind of work is so helpful in terms of establishing independence and success for them. So I'd like to thank Lorraine as well as Allison. You can see that both these individuals come with a tremendous amount of expertise, energy, and again, congrats, Lorraine, for bringing $100,000 more into the SELPA. That doesn't happen without a record of success. So thanks again, you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, let's go back now to our agenda. I think this is it here. Maybe not, sorry. Let's close that out. Okay. So the next on the agenda that we have is going through the Mission Valley monitoring activities. As the superintendents are well aware, each of the 3 districts was found to be in need of some degree of monitoring. Newark is in what they call targeting, and both Fremont and New Haven is in intensive monitoring. The intensive monitoring was triggered by both the New Haven and Fremont districts, showing indication of identifying populations significantly disproportionately. In the case of New Haven, it was African-American students, and in the case of Fremont, it was Hispanic students with specific learning disabilities and white students, I believe, for other health impairment and emotional disturbance. So we were going to get into those plans, but I'm going to backtrack us for a second. I think, Desiree, you shared your schedule as such. You're kind of filling in for Larry right now. And the one item in the very beginning of our agenda that would be helpful if we can go back to and approve is the Mission Valley operating budget. It's item number 3. I don't know if there's any other review or questions that you might have, Desiree, before we vote on that.
I'm sorry, I didn't even get a chance to read it, so I don't know that if I have any questions or not, because I didn't read it, and I still feel a little bit uncomfortable with approving something I haven't had a chance to look at. So
at this point, then, what I might recommend to our voting members of the Regional Policy Board is that we could put off both this and the approval of the minutes to our next meeting. We will be getting an invoice for that SACE e-signatures, and we have some flexibility in the budget for those unallocated funds, so we can go ahead and respond to that invoice. Does anybody have any issue with us putting these off to the next meeting, but addressing that invoice from SACE with the unallocated funds?
I'm able to abstain from the vote for the minutes. Being present, I can abstain because I wasn't at the last meeting. So I would have normally abstained from doing that anyway because I wasn't at the meeting. But I'm not sure about the invoice. Again, I have not had an opportunity to look at it. Do I need to approve that too?
Well, actually, then, Desiree, you bring a good point. We can go ahead and hold the vote for both items, and being what you've shared, if you want to abstain, that would still give us enough if the other members choose to vote for it to pass.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and begin with, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the September Regional Policy Board minutes, please indicate with an aye.
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 All those voting no? And all those abstaining?
I will abstain.
Great. All right. Thank you, Desiree. The second item is the Mission Valley SELPA.
I'm sorry, Karen.
Yes.
How did Eliza vote?
Eliza, can you share how you voted?
Sorry, I didn't realize this is Elisa, actually. Elisa Martinez, is that who you're referring to?
Yes.
Yes, I didn't realize I was actually voting. Is Mr. Rodriguez not on? I'm sorry, I joined late.
No, Ray was not able to make it.
My vote for the minutes is aye. Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, the next then item for approval from the Regional Policy Board is the 2021 Administrative Unit Operating Budget. Do we have a motion to approve the budget?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the approving the budget, can you indicate by a vote of yes?
Yes.
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 Okay. All those voting no?
Sorry, that was yes for Elisa. I was late getting off mute.
Thank you, Elisa. And those abstaining?
I abstain.
Great. Okay, so it looks like both measures passed with a vote of 4 yeses and 1 abstention in both cases. All right, thank you so much, Desiree. I really appreciate you kind of pitch hitting for Larry and Alicia coming in for Ray, who I believe is retiring officially this month.
That's correct.
And another incredible community service individual. All
24
right.
years of board member service.
How many?
He didn't seek re-election?
He did not. He's retiring after 24 years.
Oh, how cool. I'll miss him.
If
We're
I
honoring
know,
him
hey,
on Thursday.
yeah, he'll continue to keep giving.
Oh, Thursday? Okay.
Yeah. All right, so as we're kind of going into the monitoring activities, I'm going to preface this with a little editorializing. Each of our 3 districts works so very hard to provide services to students, and sometimes we don't meet our targets. Least restrictive environment in the preschool setting is something that all 3 of the districts did not achieve. But this isn't one for lack of trying. And as I've been reading through the plans, it's really hard for us to find places to have our preschool kids with disabilities included in general ed settings. But all of our directors have worked with teams to really work hard at developing that. But a couple of the things when we come down to significant disproportionality, that's particularly identifying, say, Hispanic students for a specific learning disability, or over-identification of African-American students for discipline or for specific learning disability. Much of this work, we talk about the general ed side of the house and the special ed side of the house, and we also work to not have those separate silos. But so much of this work is really part that we need to do in partnership with our general ed partners. And my wish is that these plans that we have developed could actually be part of the local plan and be really much more integrated with our general ed. I'll just take a tangent with Fremont. Because they're in disproportionality, they must take 15% of their special ed budget and put it back into general ed to address these issues. That's about $1 million. So that we don't address these things beforehand, then we've got to come back around and the state forces us to play our hand in these ways. So I just want to kind of, I'll have our directors have a chance to briefly go over the plans that they've been working on, but just kind of put that notion out there. This is really a general ed function. So,
Can I ask you a question,
sure,
Karen?
yeah.
Okay. How do we get there in terms of disproportionality? Is there a process or a mechanism that triggers us and says, oops, we're going to get disproportionate, we better redirect or pivot into another process? Do we monitor that on an ongoing basis?
Well, that's actually, I think, part of the plans now that some of the districts have developed is earlier monitoring of where we are with those numbers. And again, it's really putting into play some of those plans. 3 years ago, Fremont was found in differentiated assistance to be out of compliance in over suspension of kids that were homeless. And they put together all sorts of great plans, including monitoring, principals calling another partner principal before a suspension occurred, and those numbers went down dramatically. I can't tell you the efforts that the districts have engaged in, particularly New Haven, of looking at what are the causes of some of that disproportionality and how can we as an educational community address that. Fran, again, I really applaud you for all the work you've been doing, but do you want to kind of quickly overview your SEP and SACE plans?
Sure. So everything for the past couple months has been SEP and SACE, and I'm very grateful to the team who participated in developing both plans. In a nutshell, what we found regarding our data is that we have intervention in our district. We don't have consistent intervention, and we don't have comprehensive intervention. So depending on what site you attend as a student, you're going to get varying levels of intervention for both academics and social emotional learning. So that is what our plans are focused on. Fremont has an interesting demographic. We have about 10% of our total 35,000 student population is white. And as a result of that, and that's rare, right? That's different than other districts here in the Bay Area. So what we were looking at was white students for other health impairment, white students for ED. And so even though the numbers were low, they're high in comparison to the rest of the population. So relative to the other students in the district, we had a higher percentage of white students for OHI and ED. So our psychs really looked at those files to see what's going on. And what we found was a lack of early intervention. So our plan will focus on social emotional, MTSS and PBIS, because we also saw a correlation between academic achievement and social emotional well-being. Recently at a board meeting, well, at a couple board meetings, we had a very solid presence of parents, community members, and students who all shared kind of a resonating message that we need stronger social emotional learning in the district. And there are mental health problems that have to be addressed in order for students to learn. So our CSACE plan really focuses on social emotional learning and supporting those students, getting in there early to make sure they're supported and they feel like I can do this, I can be resilient, I can cope, I can manage my academics, and I will be okay. And so that's really what our theme is for our CSACE plan. We also had deficits in SLD for our Hispanic population. Again, it goes back to early academic interventions. Our data showed that almost all of those students are identified in first and second grade. And those of you who remember the old RTI model, remember that between kindergarten, well, now TK in second grade is the RTI model for really hitting those students with intensive interventions to keep them out of special ed. Because if you can provide them that support without specialized instruction, you should do that in the spirit of least restrictive environment. So that being said, so sorry. She's protecting me from the UPS guy, I'm sure. So our project is really geared towards MTSS and PBIS for both academic and social emotional learning. And we're hopeful that we're so close, right? We have, our disproportionality is there, but we're actually doing a really, really good job. And so I've been emphasizing that with our teachers. You're doing an amazing job. We are a really strong district. We do have these deficits and we have to address them, and we have to support students in their mental health and their well-being. And for our Hispanic students, we also have to address those that period of early intervention where they need to get academic support without, we've got general ed or special ed. We lack a tier 2 for those students. So that's our goal, is to create that tier 2 in using MTSS and PBIS and trying to have that spread across the district consistently and comprehensively.
Thank you, Fran. Jan, is there any other questions for Fran right now? Okay. Jan, do you want to go into the plans that Newark has been working on?
So Newark has been working, they worked really hard on the special education plan. We had to address a targeted monitoring for inclusive practices, for general education, for K through 12. We also had to look at our preschool program as well, because currently we have 4 preschools that are housed in one school in the district, primarily special day class, and we do not have access at this time to general education programs. So we're hoping to have an itinerant support those students when they go to their preschools or their daycare or some type of model in the general education population after they attend our preschool in the mornings. Additionally, we also had to look at English language arts and maths. We worked very hard as a team to look at the data that we had for those particular areas. And we did come up with some really robust plans for those to address those areas. Primarily, we have adopted Imagine Learning program, which is an English language arts literacy program, and also math from K through 12th grade. In addition, we also have adopted Read 180 System 44. And the idea is to really include those students and scaffold their skills up so that they do get access into the general education program. The point is that they can also use these programs currently online, and then additionally when school returns in person, there are also very good programs as that as well. To address our graduation rate, we also included a credit recovery program called a SELPA, and that is to support our special education students specifically in getting the number of credits they need to graduate. And then I think finally, our team met regularly over the weeks, and very, very strong team, both from the general education, special education side of the house. Our superintendent also attended. He made a very big emphasis that this was very, very important. And we also included the Inclusion Collaborative from Santa Clara County Office of Education to be part and partner with the district and scheduling a special education advisory committee to support our efforts in special education plan and further inclusive practices. I think we know very well from all the research that's been done on special education, our students will not be successful unless they can have full access to general education programs. I like very much what you, Karen, have said today, and Fran, around the silos that we have in special education that really have to be broken down so that we have universal design for learning and multi-tier systems of support to support all students. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Jan. We're lucky on our Zoom call meeting today to have Lisa Hillman. And Lisa actually has been doing some real pioneering work in terms of inclusion for preschoolers. So I want to just give you a nod there, Lisa. Is there anything that you would just kind of add, as Jan's talked about the difficulty in kind of partnering with our gen ed preschool?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Karen. And I'm new to this meeting. This is my first one. So I really appreciate being part of it and learning what I can. So thank you. And I have been doing preschool and itinerant preschool, for over 20 years now through Fremont Unified. Started out at Newark though. That was my very first job. Thank you. I'm not Newark. Newark. And anyway, but we definitely have had problems because, we want to be doing more inclusion, and we find that some of the preschools are a little bit reluctant. Maybe they're scared, and maybe we need to just explain to them how we can give them the support that they need and not to really be scared of our students. I think that's been hard. We've had some really great successes though. I feel like our state preschool at some of the elementary schools where our preschools are located have been really wonderful in including our children and being part of our program, and we're part of their program. And also we were partnering with Head Start for a while, and that was really good also.
Great.
So thank you, Karen.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. So Sarah, we'll ask if you don't mind going over your plan next. And I also just want to say, sometimes it feels like CDE is making districts kind of jump through hoops, that you have to meet this target and that target. But mainly they're, number one, kind of going by the federal guidelines of what the expectations are for districts. And two, probably most importantly, these are important goals for us to hit for addressing the needs of our students. We want to see them achieve at certain levels in terms of their ELA and math performance. We want them to participate on statewide testing. We want our students to be included with their general education peers. So these are really important goals that we are working towards. Sarah, without then further ado, do you mind a quick synopsis of the work that New Haven's been doing?
Sure. So thinking of our CSAs first, of course, that's our comprehensive coordinated early intervening services, and knowing that what Karen said, it's a general ed plan. I am really thankful for the New Haven Directors of Teaching and Learning. Each of them partnered with a different aspect. And so when we looked at our CSACE plan, we were trying to affect two things. One, reduce the number of African Americans identified with other health impaired. And as Fran pointed out, that really does happen in early elementary school. And two, really look at our discipline practices in middle school. And so to do that, we are providing some tutoring, some in-school and after-school interventions, but also looking at additional case manager work, probably through a school psychologist or a social worker, who would really connect with kids upon their first instance of a referral so that it doesn't escalate into a recommendation for suspension. One thing that is actually quite positive is that New Haven's discipline rate has consistently gone down. And one of the difficulties, of course, with the population of students that keeps going down is each incident is quite statistically powerful. And so we were really glad to see that it was not so many students, but that the percentage of those students really impacted us. So we have high hopes for this strategy working. When we look at our special ed plan or our SEP, we are looking to address our graduation rate. And we also have gone to Acellus in the last few years. And in going to Acellus, we have cut down on the number of opportunities for in-person learning. And we know that including our LCP, our learning continuity plan, we are going to need some opportunities for students. And so for the special ed plan, we tied as much work that we're doing throughout the district to our special ed plan so that we could have that integrated approach. So really looking at tutoring, credit recovery for our high school, thinking of both an online and an in-person option so that we could really tailor it to what that kid needs. We're looking to affect our statewide assessments much in the same ways. We're looking at both in-person and online tutoring during the day and after school put on by their teachers. And we're really looking at a district-wide system of multi-tiered system of support. That's really one of our board agenda goals, our board adopted goals, and really work we're just embarking on. So I don't think we're seeing the results of it yet, but we're very excited about that kind of coordination in our system. And then last, we're really looking to address our preschool. I am sorry that Allison isn't here for me to thank. She has taught me plenty over the years and really set our preschool students who come out of her program up. But as a district, we really only offer special day classes, and we're really looking to seek for the larger continuum of itinerant work, collaboration with Kid Dango and Head Start. And so that work has started, and we look forward to expanding upon that. And our post-secondary work, as Lorraine mentioned to you, she does support New Haven students as well. One of the things she did really well for us on Monday was provide professional development for our teachers to really connect kids with Department of Rehab, talk about long-term planning after high school. And we are responsible for those outcomes. And we have many areas of success. Our higher education is the area we want to focus on, but our employment and vocational skills, and we still are meeting our statewide targets for that. So we're really proud of the areas where we've done some success, and we're really hopeful that this will make great outcomes for our students.
Great. Thank you, Director Kapler. Just going back a little too, I would just like to say these plans, as Fran said, have been in the making really since summer. There have been focus groups that have come together and data that's been collected. That data has been analyzed for what are the root causes that are resulting in some of the targets not being met. And then from the root causes, each district with their groups have developed very specific strategies with key individuals responsible for making sure that those strategies are implemented. There are timelines and there are ways to measure the success. So again, I really appreciate all the effort and look forward to as these plans continue to be rolled out. Today, we will be submitting all of this information to California Department of Ed, meeting our timeline. I think Fran and Sarah are going to be doing some additional presentations to their local boards on this. Do we have any other questions or comments regarding our special education plans or the CSACE plans? Okay. All right. Again, I want to say thank you. And just when we look at discipline, I think it's very encouraging how we're really changing and thinking about behavior as communication, and that misbehavior is almost like an inability to read. It requires a teaching intervention. So I'm really hopeful as we're moving forward looking at that aspect of discipline. We did get a number 7 on our agenda. We did get a preview of our 1920 data. Now, this is data that was collected in October of 2019. Needless to say, our numbers for suspensions look absolutely great as of March 2020, but that's a whole nother story. So as we look though, both New Haven and Fremont show some disproportionality. Again, I think the plans are going to be addressing that. When we look at monitoring activities for this following year, the CDE has informed us at this point that that's going to take a back seat. Needless to say, we did not take standardized assessments in the spring, and data is completely skewed in terms of referrals, inclusion, et cetera, as a result of us all, or most of us, doing distance learning in some capacity. Any questions regarding our monitoring activities or moving forward there? Okay. In terms of the local plan, which the Regional Policy Board approved in June of 22, that was submitted to the Alameda County Office of Ed, and Alameda County Office of Ed was asking that all the SELPAs in Alameda County, and that would include North Region, Mid-Alameda County, submit their plans. So we are waiting for those other SELPAs to submit their plans. They will okay that, and then it will come back for specific board approval from each of our districts. We already talked about number 10, which is our special education information system cost increase with the e-signatures. On number 11, we are talking about our Mission Valley SELPA schedule. And I'm just, one of the, again, things about distance learning and our kind of Zoom meetings is the attendance for our community advisory events has dramatically improved, which is a wonderful thing. We had over 70 participants for our distance learning and supporting children with autism event in November. In December, just last week on December 8th, we had 40 parents tune in for DREDF to do a presentation on Zoom IEPs, which was also really well done. January 12th, we're going to be focusing on behavior as communication and supporting parents in helping manage behaviors, particularly as they arise in our distance learning capacity. February, our focus is going to be on self-care for parents, and our school psychologists will be presenting. And as Lorraine had noted, we have transitions now as our focus in March. We will have our special education awards in May. I will remind everybody of our regional policy board meetings for the remainder of this year, one in March, another in June, and our public hearing for our annual budget on June 22nd. Directors meetings are as scheduled. And number 13, again, a reiteration of what are our SELPA priorities. I'm not sure now if our directors want to do any other updates. I think as Fran had alluded to, the focus has been on these SEP plans and CSACE plans pretty much for the last 3 months. Anything else, Sarah, Jan, or Fran, that you'd like to add in terms of specific district updates?
Nothing earth-shattering, but I did want to piggyback on what you said about discipline. Our attendance rates are the highest they've been in history for our students. So, and then we've also gotten some feedback from parents, particularly of older parents. Our students on the spectrum, our students with emotional issues are doing really well in distance learning, which is good news. So it's just something we're considering now, whether or not there might be a future for distance learning in districts for some of our students who do better in distance learning for a variety of reasons. But we're very pleased that students are logging in. That wasn't the case in the spring. It was very challenging. and we were doing a lot of outreach and phone calls to those families. But now it feels like people have gotten a system down in their homes. Our teachers have been absolutely amazing in making sure their families feel like they're part of the class, and they're creating a culture where even though they've never physically met some of these students, they have a rapport with those students. And I think that's truly amazing.
Yeah. Sarah or Jan?
I'd just like to basically echo what Fran said. I think that our staff has really stepped up, teachers and service related providers. I've got a lot of positive feedback from families when I'm in IEPs regarding things like speech therapists. I didn't know what they did and what that looks like. Similarly for occupational therapists, just looking at how people are teaching and supporting our families. Our behaviour board certified behaviourists, BCBAs, have been really instrumental in having meetings with families to support them in the home. They're challenging times, and I think we're just looking forward to schools reopening sometime soon, because I think the mental health issues of our families and students right now is really a focus of an area that we are all concerned with. But thank you.
Great, thanks, Jan.
Yeah, I mean, I echo what everyone else says. I want to add that New Haven is looking at learning pods a little closer and really headed forward, making plans without a date. I mean, we don't know when we are going to bring students back, even in small groups, but we're excited about the possibility and engaged in the planning around that.
Great, thank you, Sarah. We have no public comment as indicated on our feedback form on the Google Doc. Are there any other items from the board? Okay, hearing none, I will close with the thought from the day is learn from the mistakes of others, because you can't live long enough to make them all yourself. And that was Eleanor Roosevelt. And I think in these times when we are really, all of us learning on the go, we're going to be making some mistakes, but that's actually such a very important part of the learning process. Our next scheduled meeting is March 23rd at 9 o'clock. Unless there's any other input from our group, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Anything else? Yes, John? Oh, that's just a goodbye. Okay. And let me just say to our superintendents, if you want to schedule a meeting with me and your special ed directors to go over anything in any greater detail, please know that just go ahead and contact me via email and we'll make that happen. Then I also wish everyone a very safe and happy holiday, and so appreciative of your time today. Okay.
And here we are.
Good. Yes, I think these meetings are actually coming along well. So, all right, I will talk to you then later this afternoon, Ms. Platt.
Okay. Probably I'm looking between 12:30 and 1 o'clock.
Perfect for
I
me.
want to download their stuff from the emails and then talk to you about how we're going to submit all that.